Hi, so in this battle analysis video, what I want to do is to explain the battle I had with 1,000 points of my Nighthaunt army against Idoneth Deepkin army, and then what I'm going to do once we've gone through the battle report itself, I just want to go through main learning points from my point of view in terms of things I might think about differently for next time. Now, in terms of the Nighthaunt army I took, first of all, it wasn't the same one I'd taken for the last couple because I wanted to change it up and try out some of the other combination of units that I intend to put in a 2,000 point army. So I still took the Knight of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed as the general. I still had a Guardian of Souls. I also took an extra hero choice, Spirit Torment. I've taken 10 Grimghast Reapers, 3 Spirit Host, 10 Bladegeist Revenants, and 8 Mirmorn Banshees. And the reason for that is, in my 2,000 point army, I see the Banshees, the Revenants, the Guardian of Souls, the Knight of Shrouds, and the Spirit Torment as all working very well together as a cohesive unit. But I'll talk more about that in the battle analysis section at the end of the report. Now, my opponent actually was a little surprised I didn't take the one I'd taken for the last couple against another opponent where I'd taken the Black Coach. Again, I wanted to try out different things. So she'd taken Ishara and Soulrender as her sole hero choice, along with 3 Akelian Morsar Guards, which are the Eel Riders, multi-wound models that can do a fair amount of damage in theory. 10 Namati Reavers and 10 Namati Thralls as battle line. The Reavers being the ones actually that can shoot. And then finally an Akelian Leviathan, the big turtle, which I see everywhere. I see in all battle reports where this has been used. And I think what she was hoping for is a battle between that and the Black Coach. But, you know, next time we'll do that. So, in terms of deployment, we deployed like this. I deployed my Spirit Torment, my Revenants, and my Banshees in the Underworlds with the intention of doing what I would always intend to do with those, which is to bring them on during my first turn and attempt to charge something. Of course, you know, they're not usually likely to, but at least I can put them in position that I want. Now, I finished deploying last, so my opponent got to decide who went first and put me in first, which is exactly what I would have done. The battle plan is, as we can see here, I completely forgot what it's called now, take and hold or something, but basically there are 2 objective markers that are inside our deployment zones. If from battle round 3 either player has control of both, they automatically win. So on my first turn I advanced the army up apart from the Spirit House. A little bit of a paranoia with me, I suppose, with this particular battle plan is I don't want to push everything up and leave my objective undefended, because I know it's going to take me some time to be able to capture the opponent's objective, because I'm a very fast attacking army. That's generally how I play. I'm going to move up, which means my opponent is always going to be around their own objective. So until I've broken them down, I'm not going to capture it. I really don't need someone sneaking through and capturing mine because I've left it undefended. Now, I elected to place my Banshees, Spirit Torment and Revenants directly opposite the Morsar Guard in attempts to charge into them. Didn't work out, of course. You need at least a 9 to be able to do that, and didn't get that, so that was fine. Well, in the event, I didn't succeed with the Banshees or the Revenants, at which point I didn't even try it with my Spirit Torment because I'm not having him go in solo, so I left him till last. I also, in the hero phase, should say, with the Guardian of Souls, there's only one spell I managed to usefully use, which is Mystic Shield, so I cast that on the Guardian of Souls. Everyone moved up like that, but other than that, nothing really doing. I've got no shooting, and no charges took place. And this is always why I always say, if I get to choose who goes first, if I don't think my opponent can do anything significant with their first turn, I will always put them in first. So this is what happened here. So, on to the Deepkin's turn, and they charged into my Banshees with their Morsar Guard, charged into my Revenants with their Leviathan, moved the Namati Reavers upwards because their shooting range, it's an 18-inch range for being able to do like 1 shot, but if they can get within 9 inches, then they can fire 3 shots off. So there was needing to move up just to be able to get themselves in any sort of range towards the Grimghast Reapers there. Now, in the combat phase, in actual fact, the The Banshees suffered some severe casualties, but they also did some damage back. But, you know, it was largely me losing Banshees at that point. But the Revenants did pretty well. There was an awful lot of them chomped by the Leviathan, but they also managed to do a fair amount of damage to the Leviathan as well. Within range of the Spirit Torment, they can re-roll all failed hits within range of the Guardian of Souls. Then they get +1 to wound. They can actually be fairly devastating. They'd be much more devastating on the charge because then not only would they have all been intact and none of them got eaten, but I'd also have got +1 attacks as well. So in terms of battle round 2, what I wanted to do at this point is to try and raise up some of my Banshees, but unfortunately Spectral Lord didn't get off. I failed that one. It's really annoying because I'm completely unopposed when it comes to magic. I've got 2 wizards. You know, my Knight of Shrouds has a relic that allows him to become a wizard, and the Guardian of Souls is a wizard, so I can cast spells. As long as I successfully cast them, they're going to go off. So yeah, the Guardian of Souls Spectral Lore failed, so the Banshees stayed where they were. But my Knight of Shrouds cast Soul Cage on the Leviathan. Now this is really important because what that means is the Leviathan now, until my next hero phase, in any combat phase, has to go last. You know, everyone else gets to fight their combats first, and it can't retreat. What I also did in readiness as well is move my Grimghast Reapers up to within a few inches of the Namati Reavers so that I could charge them as well. And at this point, I'm thinking, you know, the Leviathan was basically on half wounds. All right, I'd lost a certain number of Revenants, but I'd able to raise some of them back up with the Knight of Shrouds. What I should have said really is in the previous combat, where a load of them got munched, I would have lost the whole lot of them, but for the fact I used a command point to make sure that they will definitely pass their battle shock, because 8 of them got munched. There were only 2 left. I was very unlikely to roll a 1 or a 2, which is the only way I'd have survived there. So I just used the command point. But in this turn, I used the command point to give my Banshees an extra attack, which for them is double attacks. That's always going to be really awesome there. So what you can see here, I probably shouldn't have removed it on this particular point, but that allowed the Banshees, the Spirit Torment charged into the Morsar Guard, but the Banshees finished them off, so the Spirit Torment didn't actually get to do anything. The Grimghast Reapers rolled their charge in, but failed. They got a double 1. Now, this is the sort of thing that, of course, is going to happen every now and then. This is now my 3rd game of these 1K Age of Sigmar games. And after, I suppose, 3 games, you might reasonably expect it's not ridiculously unlikely that you'll have got a double 1 at some point. So that was bad luck there. But, you know, I kept the Spirit Hosts where they were. That's something that I'm going to regret a little bit later on. And unfortunately, in this combat phase, even though the Leviathan went last, I did some more damage to it, it nonetheless chomped the rest of my Revenants, so they were basically gone. On to the Deepkin's turn in round 2. They went into my Grimghast Reapers with the Namati Thralls. They shot at my Grimghast Reapers with the Reavers and basically took out quite a lot of them. At that range, of course, they all had like 3 attacks with their shooting. There's 10 of them. That's 30 shots with bows. That's going to do an awful lot of damage to me. There were like a couple left at the end of it all. It was carnage. And the Marty Thralls ran into them and basically finished them off. The Leviathan chomped on a bit of my Knight of Shrouds, the general, and they both did damage to each other, really. I mean, one thing that was getting quite annoying at this point was the fact that one great strength of Nighthaunt is you have the 4+ unmodifiable save for almost all units. And in fact, it's all units that I'd taken. But I was passing hardly any of them. It was way, way below. It was like at most a quarter of them being successful. But ultimately, you know, that's bad luck. But, you know, bad luck doesn't lose you a game. What loses you a game is making poor decisions. So on to round 3. This time, the Deepkin player succeeded in the role, and so they elected to go first. So what they did is the Leviathan still has to go last in the combat because Soul Cage lasts until my next hero phase, which there hasn't been one yet. So what happened was the Namati Thralls moved downwards towards my Guardian of Souls. The Reavers started to move across to try and get some shots in my units to the left there. Another little bit of argy-bargy, but I was unable to kill the Leviathan, even though it had like 1 wound left. Couldn't quite kill it. And the Leviathan then killed my general, so he was gone. So once it was my turn, I charged into the Leviathan with the Banshees and the Spirit Torment. Now, at this point, I did something a little bit reckless, really. Well, I'm quite sure what should have happened. I sort of felt a bit vulnerable with my Guardian of Souls, and I thought, I don't really fancy getting shot up by the Reavers. I couldn't really think of anywhere sensible to place him, so I just went for it. I just charged into the Namati Thralls, hoping that he'd have enough wounds left at the end of it to be able to sort of heal himself a little bit. So that's what happened there. It didn't, but the Leviathan, the Banshee just took out the Leviathan. So yet again, the Spirit Torment charged into something, didn't even get to attack. He's just there buffing people. The other thing the Spirit Torment does, as well as if in any particular phase, or turn even, just turn. If I kill 3 enemy models, and it doesn't have to be the Spirit Torment that does this, my army does this, the Spirit Torment is allowed to heal D3 wounds or raise D3 wounds worth of models to anything within a fairly short range. Now, the idea would be if I kill the Leviathan, I kill a couple of Thralls, I'd be able to do that. Didn't quite work out that way, however. So, the Guardian of Souls died. The Leviathan died. And so that's how we were going into Battle Round 4. Now, Battle Round 4, I did actually manage to roll the turn. Now, at this point, I decided to shift my lazy arse off the objective. It should have been obvious before this point, but my opponent was not realistically going to go and capture that objective. They'd also moved all units off their own objective. So I moved the Spirit Hosts up, but I charged into the Thralls with the Spirit Torment and the Banshees. Now, I could have charged into the Reavers. And again, in terms of errors, discussing errors, possibly that would have been a better thing to do. And then left the Thralls to my Spirit Hosts, who maybe would have beaten them, maybe wouldn't. But I chose to do what I chose to do. I was able to wipe out the Thralls. There was no real issue with that. I think this time at least the Spirit Torment did get to do something useful. Unfortunately, I attacked with the Banshees first, killed most of the Thralls, but not all of them. The Thralls then attacked back against the Banshees and actually killed all the Banshees. This was really annoying. But the Spirit Torment then finished them off. So going into the Deepkin's turn, they moved their Soul Render back up towards their own objective. They moved the Reavers down a little bit to get some shots in on what was left of my army now. And that was pretty much that. It took 1 wound off the Spirit Torment. Going into round 5, the final round now. So at this point, I think I've just got to go for it. I managed to roll the first turn. So what I did is I positioned my Spirit Host. I moved them as far as I could, but not running them because I wanted to try and get a charge in. And I managed to finish 8 inches away from the Reavers. So reasonable, less than 50% chance, but still not ridiculously unlikely chance of getting a charge in. I moved the Spirit Torment up so that I'd charge in with the Spirit Torment. I thought, I'm just going to go for broke here. I could have tried to run away, and maybe it would have ended up in a draw. And in a tournament, that's probably what I would have done at this point. But obviously, you're just playing for fun. You don't do that. Failed the charge with the Spirit House, unfortunately. If they'd got in, I think, it would have been a different story. But, the Spirit Torment, did some damage, but obviously not enough. And then that was the end of that phase. So there's very little to do now in the phase. It's really just moving in combat. So then into the final turn, which is the Deepkin's turn, the Reavers did actually polish off the Spirit Torment in the shooting phase. Really didn't even need to get to combat. Again, ridiculous number of shots they had. And then that was really the end of the game, So there was no battle plan victory because, no one held both objectives. There's no victory points in this particular one. So it was just down to who'd killed most of the other army. Well, they'd killed 880 points worth of my army, and I had not killed that much of theirs. So the Deepkin won in terms of units destroyed. So in terms of my analysis on this one, I'm going to start off with the army itself. I did quite like it. I would like to use this one again, although I did sort of say if I played against the same person, I would use my Black Coach-based army. This core of Knight of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed, Guardian of Souls, Spirit Torment, and the 10 Blade Geist Revenants and 8 Merman Banshees, I see it as an important core within my 2,000 point army, and so it is one I want to keep trying and using again in 1,000 point games until I can get up to 2,000 point games. However, in this particular case, when it came to deployment, now, there were obviously the two flanks. I could reasonably deploy my reserves down one side or the other. One side had the Morsar Guard on one flank, one side had the Reavers on one flank, and the Leviathan was roughly in the middle there. Now, ordinarily, it's one of these things. It's like, I chose to attack the strongest flank. Now, I know I always say as well, Sun Tzu's, one of his most important sayings was, attack what is weak, avoid what is strong. And you think, so you should have attacked the weaker flank. However, in this particular case, the strong is the more... Well, I mean, let's face facts as well. The Reavers are not weak. They're quite strong in terms of their shooting. But mostly what's strong is the Morsar Guard and the Leviathan. But they're also by far the most mobile. And not just the most mobile thing in their army, the most mobile thing on the battlefield. I didn't have anything that mobile. So, realistically, they couldn't be avoided. Now, true enough, if I'd have thrown my things onto the right flank there, I could have approached from the side, gone into the Reavers. Okay, the Leviathan would have come in as well, but the Morsar Guard would have probably been an extra turn away from being able to do so, and that may have been a better thing in retrospect. Now, here's the thing. In retrospect, maybe it would work better, maybe it doesn't. But when I thought back on it, there were two reasons why I still should have done that has nothing to do with retrospect. I should have thought at the time. One is the Spirit Torment. The reason I've brought the Spirit Torment into the army is because he has two astoundingly good abilities. It's not that he's an awesome combat hero. He's a bog standard combat hero. He can do reasonable damage, but he buffs those around him. So friendly Nighthaunt units can re-roll ones to hit whilst in range of about 12 inches of the Spirit Torment. That's really useful. The other thing is that if my army causes 3 models to be slain, then I can heal or raise up D3 wounds on a nearby unit. That can include on himself, of course, or anything like that. Now, that is going to be much easier against a unit of 1 wound models than it is against a unit of, I think it was 4 wound models, the Morsar Guard. I was never, it was 3 Morsar Guard. You either wipes them all out in one go or you didn't at all. So that was no good. So I should have done it from that point of view as well. And then there was another reason. The Deepkin player did not deploy symmetrically around their objective. Most of it was to the left of the objective. So if I'd have come in from the right, not only would I should have been able to crush the Reavers fairly easily and would have been more likely to be able to raise more wounds with the models up, even having to take on the Leviathan. But notice I did take on the Leviathan. I attacked the strongest flank. I attacked the Morsar Guard. I attacked the Leviathan. And although I took heavier casualties than I think I should have done if my armour rolls had not been so appalling, I did still defeat both of them. So the units that were supposed to take out the Morsar Guard and the Leviathan succeeded. So that still would have been fine. And what it would have meant was I potentially could have held that objective. What that means was that in turn 3, I effectively could have won the game. Because if I had managed to hold that objective and move a bit beyond it, that and the Spirit Host was still on my objective, turn 3 comes around, I've basically won. So I think looking ahead at future games for this one, maybe I should on my crib sheet write a little note to myself that I should consider in an objective like this, is there a particular flank to attack from? Don't just focus on the units there. Focus on, can I capture objectives by attacking down a particular line? Now, the largest error of all was almost certainly the fact that I kept the Spirit Host on my objective for longer than I should have done. I should have looked at the situation. The Leviathan and the Morsar Guard can fly, so they've got the best chance of nipping across and nicking it. However, they were both very much committed to combat, and it looked like I was going to get the better of them as well. it was very unlikely that the Thralls or the Reavers or the Soul Render would have nipped down and taken it. They wouldn't have been able to do it quickly. If I'd have moved my Spirit Host up, I'd have still had the option of moving them back down if I had to as well. I certainly should have moved them up at least a turn earlier than I did. If I'd have done that, there is no doubt whatsoever that the Spirit Host would have been able to attack the Reavers along with the Spirit Torment in that last phase. And in that last turn, if I'd have been able to take out the Reavers, then again, there is no doubt that I would have won the game. Now, as I said earlier, I think it is perfectly sensible that I have a unit that I leave on that objective for that particular battle plan. You know, and this is why it's important to think about battle plans when designing armies as well and thinking about overall strategy, because I traditionally play armies that do move forward. They're always moving forward, which means even if I'm up against another army that is generally a forward-thinking army, I'm still likely to be the one that goes charging ahead, because that's the way I prefer to play, and there's a particular reason for that. If I'm trying to work out a strategy for my army, which of course I need to do in order to design the army that can carry out that strategy, I need to be thinking about what's my opponent going to do. Now, when you're designing an army that's to take on all comers, which is what I want to do for tournaments, and that's what I've done here. I did not design this army thinking, oh, Idoneth Deepkin, I'll design an army for that. I didn't do that. I just designed an army to take on whatever. In a situation like that, I don't know if my opponent's going to sit back and shoot. I don't know if they're just going to sit back and countercharge. I don't know if they're going to run full steam ahead. I don't know if they're going to try and split into two and attack each of my flanks. I don't know what they're going to do. So by having a very fast attacking army, what I can do is create a situation where I almost do know what my opponent's going to do. They're going to stay there and let me charge them because they'll not be able to move anywhere quickly enough to stop me. You know, so if I'm designing an army that is deliberately intended to go full steam ahead, that gives me my best chance of being able to think of strategies to control the game. Didn't work on this particular occasion. As I said, I think I made an error in choosing which flank to attack first, which hopefully I will not repeat. So that's what I'd be thinking in terms of next time I use this particular 1,000 point army. I'm not sure when that will be though, because if the next game I have is against the same player, I've said I would take my Black Coach themed army, and I'm hopefully going to be very soon in a position to be able to use my Nurgle army, which is still far from painted, but I've got the next week off, even though I'm not feeling too great, as you can probably hear. I still intend to be able to get that painted over the next week, so that that is ready to go as well against whatever opponents. So I hope you enjoyed this little analysis. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. Comments down below, of course, and share with anyone else who might also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.